On the second night of a back-to-back, the 76ers are Brooklyn-bound. A Long Island native, Danny Green, certainly knows how to get to that part of the world. Perhaps there's no one in the world playing quite as well as the big fella. 7-footer Joel Embiid on a tear, 38 points last night against the Wizards. And that gentleman, Doc Rivers, not only having the 76ers playing sharp at 7-1, the best team in the NBA, he is dressed for the occasion as well. Getting ready to board the bus and head over to Barclays Center. How you doing? Welcome into 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot. Good evening.
I am doing well, thank you. Excited to see what the Sixers can do in this interesting on the road. I know Joel Embiid and probably a lot of fans at home were hoping to see a fully loaded Brooklyn roster tonight, but gettable for these Sixers, so we'll see how they handle this shorthanded Brooklyn squad.
Shorthanded is indeed the name of this game tonight as the Sixers at 7-1 go up against the 4-4 Nets. Sixers are without Seth Curry due to soreness in his left ankle. You said, Lauren, no Kevin Durant. He's out due to health and safety protocols. The Nets expect to have him back on Sunday. And no Kyrie Irving. He's out tonight for personal reasons. Spencer Dinwiddie tore his ACL in his right knee. So the contending Brooklyn Nets, at least a team that a lot of people thought could be a contender this year, yeah, they're without some guys, but I'm not quite as excited, but I'm intrigued. My excitement might be dampened. My intrigue factor is still there because the Nets have a new head coach, a rookie head coach in Steve Nash. They have an assistant who is certainly an accomplished former NBA head coach in Mike D'Antoni. So to me, this is still a pretty intriguing Brooklyn team and a good storyline for the 76ers as they begin what figures to be an intensified stretch of their schedule with stiffer competition.
Yeah, what an interesting staff. Can't forget about former Sixers assistant Ime Udoka, who's now on that staff as well, and obviously has some intimate knowledge of Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, how these guys play. So always interesting to see how former coaches game plan against their former players. But yeah, obviously not exactly the Brooklyn team that this Sixer group was looking forward to facing off with tonight. But Sixers basketball over the last week and a half, Celts, has been pretty phenomenal to watch regardless of the opponent. So hopefully we'll get another one of those good games tonight.
Also on the injury front for the Sixers, not just Seth Curry, but Furkan Korkmaz and Mike Scott remain out as well. So it had been a tight rotation for Doc Rivers the past couple games without the two players who he mentioned in Korkmaz and Scott. Becomes even tighter with no Seth Curry. We'll find out within a matter of an hour, I would say, who's filling in for Seth Curry in tonight's game. But regardless, Lauren, like you said, the 76ers, they are flying high at 5 straight wins. That is the longest active winning streak in the NBA. And if you're looking for points, if you like to see the ball go in the basket, last night was a game for you to watch. It was an entertaining game. It was really a lot of fun. And the 76ers shot the lights out of the ball, and they ended up surviving Bradley Beal's 60 points and the Washington Wizards.
It was really something else. That was one of my main takeaways, Celtics, is that this is a Sixers team that can survive a historic performance from a player on the other team. Obviously, a 60-point performance. You think that that team probably is the one that comes out on top. But the Sixers had quite a first half, finishing with 82 points in the first half alone. And as Daryl Morey liked to point out on Twitter, they were the first to get to 100 points, which happened in the third quarter. And that's usually a good indicator of who is going to win the game. But yes, last night was a very interesting game, very entertaining. Good to see Joel get going there after a quieter first quarter. And of course, Seth, who's not with the team tonight or is not playing for the team tonight, had an incredible first half. He was just lights out. The team shot 80% in the second quarter, which is crazy. So what a game to watch and an interesting second half, to be sure.
The Sixers, as you said, Lauren, their offensive output was off the charts. I felt it started early on by Ben Simmons being very aggressive, creating space. You see Joel Embiid playing the part of facilitator there in the first quarter, even though he only scored 1 point and went without a field goal in the first quarter. 0 for 6. That was all part of the amazing storyline that was Joel last night when he scored 37 points over the final 3 quarters. And I would also say, Lauren, that even though the Sixers, yes, gave up 136, they clamped down on Bradley Beal when it mattered most in the fourth and final frame.
Absolutely. You could see that Beal was getting a little bit tired, a little gassed there at the end. Danny Green and Matisse Thybulle really had their hands full last night, and Beal obviously got the better of them for a lot of the game. But then at the end, it was great to see them sort of put the clamps down, like you said, especially Thybulle in that last key defensive possession. Good to see him get a meaningful possession under his belt. But yes, crazy, crazy performance from Bradley Beal, and great to see chemistry like that. Danny Green finding Tobias Harris, rising to the occasion and defeating what ended up being a pretty frisky Washington team.
No doubt. And everyone right now, one of the beautiful things about what the 76ers are doing offensively is everyone is finding space at the table to eat. Joel is feasting. Ben Simmons, another double-double last night. Tobias with 19. Seth Curry, who we mentioned, with 28. Danny Green shot the ball really well on that homestand for the Sixers. He went 5 for 8 from outside the arc last night. So everyone's getting a little bit of theirs. And I love this sequence right here, seeing Ben and Joe connecting in the clutch. A big fist pump from Joel Embiid. And a few moments earlier, Lauren, we saw Ben set up Joe. I thought it was nice. Doc Rivers, we asked him about it before the game. He didn't make much of it, but I thought it was nice to see the two of them be able to connect in crunch time, making really meaningful plays that put the 76ers in position to win.
Really good to see, especially that last possession. And something that stood out to me, Celts, was the aftermath of the possession. Seeing how excited Ben got, seeing how happy Joel was, and then obviously seeing Tobias Harris emoting right behind Ben in that clip. Really cool to see the way these guys are celebrating each other. It feels really genuine, really sincere, and it's constant throughout the game, whether they're on the court or off the court. This is a team that really supports one another. And if that's a precedent that they're setting early in the season, it can pay dividends for the group down the road.
We obviously know there was a lot going on in the world yesterday with the insurrection at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. We saw a lot of displays from teams around the NBA, and certainly afterwards, global events were on the minds of some of the 76ers, including Tobias Harris, who, along with his teammates, blocked out some of the noise that was hard to avoid and still went out and played not just a basketball game, but a winning basketball game.
Yeah, it means a lot. I mean, I really appreciated and respected him talking to us before the game. I think for myself, I mean, I look at myself as still a young black male in the world, and especially for the younger guys too, to have a coach, but also a African American coach at that is able to really basically talk about his experiences and give us that insight and knowledge that's real key for their own growth and development in just life outside of basketball. So, I appreciate the words he had to say before the game, and it made it put things in perspective of, hey, we're here to play basketball, but also, we have families, we have loved ones in this world, and we have a life too outside of this the NBA.
Thoughtful words from Tobias Harris, obviously talking about his head coach, Doc Rivers, who, not by his own desire, has, going back over the last 6 years or so, kind of been the face for the NBA, one of the faces speaking out against injustice, Lauren, whether it was Donald Sterling's situation with the Clippers, talking about some of the protests that emerged and actions for social justice over the summer inside the bubble in Orlando. I mean, we're seeing it to take some of the viewers or audience behind the scenes. These Zoom media availabilities happen before and after games, and there's national media members coming on to get Doc Rivers' opinion on what's happening in the world. And it's great to hear that he's facilitated an environment for his players to engage in those conversations as well.
It's very clear that Doc Rivers is shooting straight with this group of Sixers, whether on court stuff or bigger off court stuff. And that's something that Tobias, Seth Curry both expressed they really appreciate out of Doc. And listening to Doc speak, listening to Tobias speak, listening to Seth speak, I find myself just feeling very grateful that those are guys that are in this Sixers locker room this year, because it is hard to focus on basketball on a day like yesterday. So I have nothing but respect for the guys for coming out, playing such a good game, fighting back into it when obviously their minds were understandably elsewhere.
When the ball was tipped, Joel Embiid, he was dialed in. We got to talk about Joel Embiid in the groove right now. It is a major mojo for the big man, the 7-footer. 38 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. Should we go on? Yes, we should. 3 block shots against the Wizards. And the fact that he scored 37 of those points after the first quarter, amazing to me, Lauren. And the moment, though, that stood out for me from that game was a play from the first half, and I believe it was the first quarter, where Joe was smiling ear to ear after getting knocked down. I mean, you can tell how much fun Joel Embiid is having this season.
He's so animated. It's very clear that he's sort of back to his old ways of really enjoying the game that he's playing. It's clear he's enjoying himself. He's enjoying his teammates. He's enjoying his new coach. And a happy Joel is a dangerous Joel, as you just saw there. We've talked about it a couple times. After a slow start yesterday, managed to come back and have 38 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks. We can't say this stat line enough because of how impressive it was. And he really looked like he was having a good time, which we cannot reiterate enough is huge for Joel.
And there was a relative blueprint coming into this season based on roster design that Doc Rivers and a new staff could lean back on. Now they've thrown in some great wrinkles as well, but this is something Joel has talked about. The 76ers playing more in the holistic style of what we saw a couple years ago when there was more shooting depth on the team. But even seeing a run from the end of one end of the floor to the other and him chasing down Raul Neto for that big chase down block right there, he is setting the tone on both ends of the floor. And that stat line that you referenced, the first time a 76er did it since 1983, that would have been Julius Erving. And right now, Joel is top 15 in scoring, top 5 in rebounds, and top 10 in blocks in the league. He is just putting together a very, very impressive stat line to begin the year.
Well, there's no way you can have a conversation about the MVP race without talking about Joel Embiid the way he's playing right now. He could be an MVP. He could be a defensive player of the year, as could Ben Simmons. So this is a group that really is setting itself up, if they can continue this momentum as they get into some more challenging matchups, to win a lot of games, maybe win some awards, and maybe win it all. I know it's a little soon, but they look just that good, at least in the early runnings this year.
Speaking of Joel Embiid and the MVP conversation, our guy was asked about it after last night's win.
Well, we're winning some games. It's too early. I'm focused on, getting better as a team. Like I always say, to be able to be in those conversations, either MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, or whatever those are, you got to win. So, all I'm focused on is, winning as a team. And if it happens, that'll be a huge accomplishment. But the bigger goal is to win the championship. So that's the goal. So we got to keep winning. We got to keep on getting better, and whatever that follows with it will be great.
Sage perspective from Papa Joe, Joel Embiid, after a big win last night. I think he and the Sixers know a tougher portion of the schedule is upcoming. But I got to tell you, Lauren, if the 76ers continue to shoot the ball the way they have, good luck stopping them. If we can pull up what the Sixers have done over the course of their last handful of games, well, let's just start with last night. They had some season highs and NBA highs, Lauren, in terms of what they did from outside the arc.
And that, of course, maybe the biggest change we've seen in this Sixers team since last season is that shooting. How good they were last night, like you said, historic 61% from 3 on the night, which is just a crazy, crazy figure. And obviously, potentially not super sustainable, but cool to know that this team is a threat to shoot like that, because on a night that they can shoot that way, they're going to have a hard time losing. You're going to have a hard time losing? Yeah, I said what I said.
Or an easy time winning, depending on how it's going for you,
Absolutely. I feel you. It was such a strange second half, but to see the shots continue to go down, to see Joel continue to fire on all cylinders, despite Bradley Beal's historic performance, it was interesting. It was certainly a unique start to the back-to-back.
76ers over their last 4 games, all of which, of course, have been wins on this 5-game winning streak. 60 of 129 from outside the arc 46.5%. Just an incredible clip for the Sixers right now. I mean, even Joe last night, he was 3 for 4 from outside the arc. So it has been great living on the perimeter. And we know that Seth Curry's not playing tonight. If you're just joining us, he's out with soreness in his left ankle. Doc Rivers thinks it's probably more of a day-to-day situation than anything else. But do you think it's worth playing this cut from Seth Curry last night, giving some insight as to why he thinks the Sixers have been able to have some success in terms of their production from outside the arc?
Honestly, it's no different than what I've been my whole life, my whole career. You know what I'm saying? Just using my shot and being able to do other stuff off of that. I know the respect I'm going to get whenever I catch the ball and look at the rim. So for me to be a threat at all times, I got to be able to put the ball on the floor and be a great passer as well out of that. So just getting more opportunity here to make plays with the ball in my hands. And I think just the entire team is doing a good job of moving the ball, passing the ball, and not being one-dimensional.
I don't know, Lauren. It's going to be interesting to see who Doc Rivers goes with tonight. You look down the roster, could Shake Milton possibly get a start for the 76ers? Also, we should mention no Terrence Ferguson for the team. He's out for personal reasons. So this is a really tight rope that Doc Rivers has to work with in terms of available and seasoned personnel in tonight's game.
Yeah, you'd have to imagine Furkan Korkmaz would be a prime candidate to step into the starting lineup if he were available tonight. I would imagine Shake is up there. Matisse Thybulle was an early sub last night, as was Tyrese Maxey. So I believe should be probably one of those three in that starting lineup, and then look for the other two to make big contributions as well. Down a shooter, down a guard, as they have been without Furkan in the last few games anyway. It will be interesting to see who steps up for how long and at what level.
It might be a Dakota Mathias Thursday. I don't know. It might be time to give the young man a little run. You need a shooter. Call in Dakota. It's time to see more of him. He did have
and he had
pretty ridiculous
excellent
outfit.
Yeah.
In the second Charlotte game, he had like 8 points in under 8 minutes. It was crazy. All right. It is time to get some more inside access on tonight's matchup. 76ers and Brooklyn, both teams shorthanded. That's where we pick it up with the one and only Tom McGinnis.
T-Mac, I was talking with Lauren earlier about this. I got to be honest. I'm a little bummed. No Kyrie Irving, no Kevin Durant in this matchup between two teams. A lot of people might be jockeying for position at the top of the East at the start of the season.
I hear you. And obviously two of the most talented players in basketball now or at any time. Especially Durant with him coming back, having missed all of last year. But you kind of knew that was happening, right, with the health and safety protocols. And then Irving, he might add 60 like Bradley Beal. So absolutely. And because for the Sixers, you want the test. But last night was such a basketball battle royale. Like for the let's get 6 in a row and go 8-1, it's not crushing me. But now, Irving is incredible, really. And I was going to talk to Doc Rivers, and maybe not now, but, he played point guard in our league, and he played at a time when Isaiah Thomas, he and I are the same age. So I would say to you and to our fans that, I'm a little too young for Pistol Pete Maravich. Now, I did see him playing a game, but it was later in his career when he was with the Jazz. And my point is, I don't know that anybody's ever had a better handle than him. But this era of guards with Irving, and Doc Rivers had Chris Paul and Jamal Crawford in LA. I almost think that Steph Curry, the ball handling today with these guys is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And Kyrie is at the top of that mountain, right up there with anybody, because he zip, 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 he can go anywhere he wants. So that's what you're missing in terms of having to guard that with a guy that can handle like that. And they're without Dinwiddie, who's out for the year with a knee. Karis LeVert, has had his injury problems, but he's going to be the guy. And Joe Harris is having a good year. And Jared Allen is playing really well. But there's no replacing Durant.
Now, here's another question. Is it possible for the 76ers to keep shooting at the clip they're shooting at? The last 4 games, it's been out of control.
I just looked at the box score from last night, and when Washington had 16 threes. And the Sixers had 18. So what comes to mind is that the Sixers have the ammunition to stay with, and in this case, outshoot a team that can make 16 threes. that hasn't always been the case. And, and so the shooting's been incredible. And, I just driving in here, going back and how the roster was constructed in short order once Daryl Morey got here. And again, I think they looked, obviously they looked at the data, but they looked back to, this is a 5-game winning streak. The biggest, longest streak that we've had in recent years was the 16-game winning streak. And this has been documented, and you've talked about it. And they look back at how did that happen? Oh, you had Ilyasova, you had Villanelli, you had Redick, and you had shooting. And now they have that as well. And when you put that around Joel and Ben, that's what you get. And Curry's been amazing. Danny Green's picking it up. And you're just getting it from a lot of different places. Tobias has had a career role right now. So, no, it won't stay this way. You're not going to shoot 61% every night, obviously, and you might not make 18 threes. To me, double-digit threes on a consistent basis would be a pretty good benchmark. And then on the nights when you really go off, it's a little bit higher. But that's why you need the defense, and that's why you need that crunch time plays. And even though the Sixers so-called had to win the game twice, they did it. And they made those plays with Joel and, as you pointed out, with Ben Simmons in the waning moments of that game.
T-Mac, have a great call tonight. Thanks, man.
Okay, bye, Brian.
Lauren, I know it's only been a few weeks of 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot, but you and I have been known to lurk in the YouTube chat. And Marky215 says, with Ben and JoJo on national TV, they're going to get the job done. I believe in that. I think the spotlight shines. Those two, there's evidence that they show up. I also think that with Brooklyn being as undermanned as it is, no Kyrie, no KD, the Sixers, yes, they have some bodies missing, but presumably, even on the second night of a back-to-back, they've got talent. I think that they, from that standpoint alone, it's not everything, but it does give them a little bit of an edge coming into this one tonight.
I like that theory about national TV. It is an opportunity for the team to show out. There are some doubters out there saying that maybe they're not the real deal, saying that maybe this record only represents the teams that they've played. This is a good opportunity to sort of show what that potential really looks like on this team. Of course, it's also a little bit of a trap game, second night of a back-to-back against an undermanned opponent. So look for a lot of intensity early and often from this group. And if they can do that, seems like they should pretty easily rise to an 8-1 record, which is a pretty good start.
No doubt. And Brooklyn, even if it were at full strength, I think kind of tough to read right now. They started off pretty strong, got a nice win over Boston. For the last week or so, they've been a little bit up and down. So it's kind of tough to get a read on where they might be at right now. Split a series with Atlanta.
Right. And I don't know how many opportunities Karis LeVert has had this year. Joe Harris, they both look good, but have they really stepped into primary roles the way that they're going to have to tonight without either of their two aces? It'll be interesting to see the way that Brooklyn responds to the adversity that they're going to feel for sure tonight.
All right, it is perhaps the most anticipated moment of the show, 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot. It is the Tissot keys of the game. We need our 24-second shot clock. Lauren, you want to go first tonight? You go first tonight. Lauren goes first.
I'd be happy to. All right, let's get rolling. My key tonight is a full 48. Obviously, last night in South Philadelphia, an incredible first 24, 82 points. They were firing on all cylinders. The shooting was there. The defense was there. The offense was there. It was really beautiful. But can they do it for a full 48 minutes? Tired on the second night of a back-to-back on the road. It's an opportunity to shake off the tough performance on the second night of their first back-to-back in Cleveland on a positive note in Brooklyn.
Close. We're still auditing the 24-second shot clock, but close. All right. My key is keep feeding the hot hands. We told you the stat. The last 4 games, the 76ers, 60 of 129 from outside the arc. Seth Curry is not playing tonight, so that could make this key a little bit more problematic. But maybe throw Shake in there. Maybe throw Dakota Mathias out there a little bit, give him some run as a two-way player. But the hand is hot right now. Keep on shooting your shot until they stop falling. They do that, plus the talent. I like the Sixers in this one tonight. There we go.
Nailed it.
Keys.
That was great.
Done and done.
I like your key too. Someone is going to have to rise to the occasion, and they're going to have to keep feeding that hot hand, whoever it may be.
Just feed it. That's all you got to do. Keep making that space for Ben and Joe. Things can work out. All right. We want to thank Ryan Coletti and Trevor Gaffney on the sticks. I'm getting the cue for my kids taking a bath. It's time to go. Lauren Rosen, thanks to you. We hope this is a successful voyage for the 76ers tonight as they take on the Brooklyn Nets for the first time this season.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Celts.